when I do something, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call to order the meeting of the Roanoke Town Council. April 1st, 2025 Town Council meeting minutes. Any questions or changes? I'll make a motion to approve the Town Council meeting minutes for April 1st as written.
I'll say it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Next is the special meeting minutes, which was the lagoon bid opening. Any changes or questions? I'll make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes as written.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? DLD?
Thank you. If I may approach council, I had our handout. I think this email was sent out, but there's a thing out here I'd like to go over.
Can you explain your way? Oh, yeah, explain your sugar. Thank you.
All right, Casey Earl and DLZ here to provide a summary on the bids as received for the lagoon. Big picture wise, as everybody's aware, this particular project, which we call Project 2, is currently on your PER is one of the projects that will be funded if you move forward with SRF, with an ultimate SRF closing, and more importantly, the intent was to use the ban money for that. With that being said, I was going to go through the bids as received, some of the things we noticed, but probably more importantly, just hit a couple high points on some action items going forward, not only for us, but for council to consider. So with that being said, as everybody I'm sure is aware, the lagoon budget in the PER and we've resubmitted I think 2023, 2024 was a little over 2 million. The actual bids came in a little less than 5.6 million. So basically, economy of scale totally different than what was currently budgeted. So $5,589,244. Of that number, there's about 300 that's an allowance that could go. You could use all of that. It could be less than that. But with all that being said, really, if you go down to the submitted bids, at most, what we would recommend naturally for council to do is acknowledge the bids are received and take them under advisement. Okay. With that being said, if I may, I was going to hit a couple high points of this, but I would imagine after this, I would recommend council, we will continue to work with the town on some of these options because there's a lot of moving targets here, and then we can formulate a plan going forward. So real quick on the bidding summary, basically we did a lot of research during the design, had some suppliers interested. You had one bidder, Merrill Brothers. We had several on the plan holders list, but we only had one bid. So some of that naturally factors into the cost. The other item we did was in the bidding, we got IDEM to approve basically two different ways to do the lagoon closure. And if you recall, the idea here was to do a clean closure so we wouldn't have to do testing. The issue with that is we gave them two different options. Merrill Brothers kind of did option 2, but because of some of the risk, they didn't do it exactly the way we had it bid, so it added some costs, mainly because they were concerned about some of the risk with the construction debris, the water, and the sludge. With that being said, if you go down to the bottom and under some of the cost drivers, we've kind of itemized some of the issues associated with that cost. One would be one bidder. The other item is the general risk of the project. Even though we had a lot of people, a lot of contractors interested up until bidding, a lot of those either vendors, subcontractors, or contractors didn't bid on the project. It's a very unique project because we got the construction debris and the water, and of course the cadmium that the town has to kind of deal with at this point. And what I've tried to do, and what we've tried to do, is talk to the contractor. We basically got a lump sum bid. That I'm going to use 5.6 million just for round numbers. It's a lump sum bid, so we try to get at least a range of scale where those numbers fall. So if you look under project cost and cost drivers, the disposal of the water could be anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million. Basically, that's them taking the water to a different treatment plant. So there's some possible cost savings there that we would work with the town. The other is the disposal of the construction debris. That's debris there that's in the pond. Some of that we have to get rid of because it's got contaminant on it. The rest of it, IDEM wanted us to haul it away. But again, that's $750,000 to $1 million in that group. You can see the testing, and actually the sludge itself is probably in that 300 to 4 million, or 3 million to 4 million range. Now again, those are big ranges, but as you can see, even with some of those other numbers, we're not in the 2 million range. So then the question is, what's some action items or some considerations going forward? The first one is I did talk to IDEM, and in no way did I say, hey, this is a black and white statement. We're still working with the town. Told them that, you know, lots been done in the last year. We got your DNR permit. We got the closure plan finally, which took about a year to get through IDEM and DNR. I told them we were looking at the plan itself, whether we're going to go with the current bidder, whether we're going to rebid it, whether we're going with an alternate plan. And one of the first things they said was, we're not big into doing extensions, but they were open to that, mainly because of the amount of work that you've done to date. They know the town is trying to address this problem. And IDEM's really good about that. If they know you're trying to move forward, you know, so I'm confident if we had to give an extension, we probably could, because they know that you've invested this much time into it to date. In terms of funding, the other item that we've done is we've reached out to SRF, because if you recall, there's, I don't know, somewhere between 50 to 70 people on the SRF list, the project priority list, and you're in the bottom third. And again, not a formal request. I just called them and said, hey, this is way more than the town can afford. It's not a problem the town created. You have to deal with, I mean, you have to deal with it now from the past. Can we get some help? I got some good feedback from them, not a guarantee, but you know, depending on some of the stuff we do with the sludge, we may be able to get some emergent contaminant points that would help us on the score. Now, you wouldn't see that until you close with SRF. So no guarantee, but they realize that that's something that, you know, we could get better funding there. The other item, of course, is what we do with the ban, because I know the ban has to be extended. The idea there was the ban would cover this, but also would be paid off with, you know, the SRF, which you don't have an SRF closing scheduled yet. If you go to the next page, with the SRF, and again, this is not to minimize the bids for the lagoon, but one of the items we have to do is get IDEM on board with what we're going to do now, but I also have to let SRF know. I gotta let them know project 2 cost is this, project 3, the treatment plan or whatever you decide to do there, which I think they understand you want to go forward with a plan. I gotta let them know what they're going to do there because they're kind of holding us hostage on that funding. So at some point, the town, between us and your other consultant, we can work on that, but we have to tell SRF, this is the 3 projects, here's the 3 project costs, and here's when the town would like to close on that entire funding package. And that factors into some of these conversations I'm having with SRF. And then if you look there in value engineering, basically with either rebidding a project, working with the current project or contractor that submitted the bids, we're pretty confident that we could value engineer $1 to $2 million back out of the project. Again, not down to $2 million, but I believe there are some cost savings working with the contractor, dealing with the water, dealing with the construction debris, having enough fail-safe in there that the town is minimizing the risk, but we have to coordinate that with IDM. So basically, in terms of going forward, I think the 3 options are you, with the existing contractor, you value engineer the project down to a certain amount. Usually you don't do that because the project scope and cost, if it's significant, doesn't allow you to do that under statute. In this case, because you only had 1 bidder interested, sometimes you have a little bit more flexibility. And it's also a contractor that, you know, is a reputable contractor, and we're the only ones that was willing to actually bid on the project. So we may have some flexibility there. That would need concurrence from us, of course, counsel, your legal counsel, and SRF. So again, some hurdles we would have to jump through. The other item is we basically rebid the project. So we would basically value engineer those items out, and we would rebid it. The pro is you would have less liability for going with the same bidder. The con, but the pro is the con would be it would take a little bit longer. And then the other one is you would revise and not do a clean closure. You basically would do a risk-based closure, but then we would have the ongoing testing going forward. And then also there at the bottom, those are just some funding items that, you know, we need to consider as we go forward, not only with the ban, whether you extend it, whether you increase it. Extending the ban, we also need to think about when you want to close with SRF. And that not only includes project 1, but it also includes 2, and then also project 3. If you're going to do 1 closing, you could do multiple closings with SRF. Just do the lagoon and the pump station and the ban, and then push off closing to 3 once you know exactly what the costs are going to be with the wastewater plant. The other thing to keep in mind is with the lagoon is I basically have to start construction probably no later than late July or August 1st in order to get that done this year. So that could maybe still be done, or we would have to ask for an extension from IDM, which again, I think we could get with them knowing how much effort's been done to date on the project. So I've talked with Aaron a little bit about this. I know these aren't any black and white items. I think there's some items here that us, DLZ, will continue to work with the town, work with the IDM, SRF, in terms of trying to evaluate where we go from here. I think beyond that, I'll address any questions, concerns, but really the only action item I would recommend is you acknowledge the bids have been opened, and then they're taken under advisement.
Casey was talking about backing out some of those things from the bid and rebidding, and nothing against Merrill Brothers. I don't have any issue there.
Sure.
But are we locked into them, or can other contractors rebid on this revised bid?
Yes, if we would change the way that the project was bid the first time, other ones could bid on it. Now, whether any other bidders would or not, or any other contractors, that's the part I don't know. I'm pretty sure they would. Not sure if anybody else would. But I think if basically with this, a lot of the risk is put onto the contractor dealing with some of those items. And naturally, we don't want to put risk onto the town, but what we would do is try to, how can we mitigate and reduce some of that risk on the contractor, reduce the cost significantly, but also put enough risk management on some of those alternative methods that the town would still have some checks and balances, you know, whether it's run, you know, what we did with the water or what we did with the construction debris. So yes, other ones could bid on it. Will anybody else bid on it? I don't know. there's not a lot of contractors that do this work. We had, like I said, we met with 2 suppliers, contractors that said they were going to bid on it. But then after they saw the bidding documents, after they got a little bit more on the project, they even came to the project, I think once or twice. They've been bugging us, but they didn't submit a bid. I think mainly because of the concern of how challenging of a project it is and how unique it is. So we tried to evaluate that naturally during design by talking to contractors, but we tried to put together 2 different options. The first option involves a lot of dirt work, but a dirt work contractor is not going to do this because there's so much testing, there's so much environmental concerns. So, so either way, I think that there's a lot of moving parts here. Again, council knows the direction now. If you don't, that's understandable. But again, I think the big items are, how the ban factors into it, extend it, increase it. What we do with the plan in terms of, do we stick with the clean closure, or do we go with the risk-based closure and go with ongoing testing? That in itself has some risk. And then the third one would be, do we work on trying to see if we can value engineer out what they're based on the current bids, or do we rebid it? And all that would factor into our concurrence with IDM, not only any changes we would have in the plan, but more importantly, any type of time restrictions the town has. So I know that's a lot to digest. I know there's not any black and white answers there. That's why with IDM and SRF both, I tried to explain to them this is a very challenging item. The other thing we talked about, and again, this is something I would probably bring up with your rate consultant, is typically we don't like recommending to communities to pay something off more than 20 years because your stuff starts falling apart and you got to address it, whether it's pumps or stuff at the treatment plant. But this is an item that isn't really infrastructure. I mean, it's just something that the money's gone. It's a problem that the town has to deal with. And, there may be a possibility of taking that out to 30 years that would minimize that rate impact. Now you have more interest, but ultimately in these situations, the rate is really the driving factor on these, based on my experience on these projects, not necessarily the interest you pay over the length of the payoff. Now, if you get a good financial package from SRF, if they would come back and say, hey, we understand the situation, you can close, you got to close next spring, they'll probably tell you that. Then maybe they give you a grant, that money would have to be financed 20 years. But maybe we could push that towards the plan, and then maybe the payoff for the lagoon would go maybe to 30 years. Again, a lot of different options there. So some of that involves us, some of it involves some input from council on how we go, and actually with Aaron in terms of what his thoughts are, but then also the engineering firm, like we're working on the plan. I need their involvement when we want to close, because some of those questions I'll start to get from SRF. So that's a short version of a long story.
One of my concerns is the ban
Sure.
needs to be extended June 1st. So we're in a little bit of a time crunch here. What they want to know is, are we extending the ban? If they move forward with any kind of lagoon project, it sounds like we need to increase the ban.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. I need to get with Baker Tilly to find out how that all works, because if you increase the ban, we don't have a cost. How do you know how much you're increasing it to?
Right.
So those are all.
Yeah, we could probably, now that we've seen the numbers, I think we could come up with more definitive numbers, but I think extending and increasing the ban, I think you would weigh that against rescoping the project, rebidding it, and including that, and just extending the ban and closing on all of this at one time in the spring of next year. Those are kind of the 2 different options.
But the ban isn't enough currently to cover even the lagoon project, which they would like to have done by the end of the year.
That's the time frame. Again, I'm not saying.
You're saying we could push that out, so then we wouldn't necessarily have.
I think your 2 options are, we try to rebid it, or we try to work with the existing contractor if we can justify it and get them on the ground by August 1st. If If you do that, you wouldn't have to ask for an extension, but you would have to increase the cost of the ban. The other option is saying, hey, this is too big of a project, it's too complicated. Let's tell IDEM, can we extend it to the end of 2026? Let's rescope the project and either use the current contractor or rebid it. And you bid it as if it can be done in early spring of next year, or you award it in the spring of next year. At the same time, you have your wastewater plant bids and you close one time with SRF. So basically with the ban, you just extend it until next spring.
So we could extend it now, not necessarily increase it, but that just means that the lagoon project would not get done.
Correct. And again, IDEM's comments was, it's not like, when I say, it's not like we're not trying on this. I think they like to see progress and they see progress. So, yeah. And I think the extending of the ban is something Baker Tilly may give you some advisement on, well, you know, in terms of the cost of that versus.
Well, originally the plan tonight was to approve an extension.
Okay.
And so
Sure.
then this all came up and it was like, wait a second.
Right.
Can we extend it or do we need to increase
Sure.
it? So that's kind of where
Yep.
we're not sure.
I think, I mean, it's entirely up to you guys, but I think, you know, tonight you take this under advisement. And, you know, we schedule another meeting for later in the month, and between now and then, we have some internal discussions of what we come up with.
And what kind of time are you looking at, Casey, to maybe reevaluate that project cost-wise and back out some costs if you were gonna go that route?
I think that we could have, I think that, to Aaron's point, I think that probably within the next 2 weeks, what we need to do is come up with some new budget numbers based on those bids that we could use, council can use, Aaron can use, we can use to determine where we go forward. But then Baker Tilly could maybe give us some advisement on what we do with that ban and how it factors into your overall wastewater project.
So if we looked at another meeting, possibly the third week of this month, that might be doable on your end?
I think it would be doable on our
pushing
end.
it 2 weeks,
Yeah.
it's pretty tight, but.
It
We
would be
have to do
doable.
something before June 1st.
Yeah.
So we'll have that meeting.
Yeah. I think we can make that happen. We would have to work real hard in terms of getting this information to all those different parties, you know, to Aaron, to you, to Sarah, to Baker Tilly, in terms of trying to get some input so council knows this is the path. we want
Baker
to go.
Tilly already has the information, so they have been working on it the last couple of
Okay.
days, so at
Sure.
least they've started on that.
Okay, that ball's at least rolling so they can, with some of this additional information.
Right. Any other questions?
No.
All right, well, then we are gonna go ahead and just take the bids under advisement,
Okay.
and then we'll schedule another meeting
Okay.
for this month.
Thank you.
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, USI,
Your turn.
So, we were originally proposing a 26-1 CCMG application project. Nonetheless, legislature met and changed things around on us a little bit. So, there used to be 2 calls a year for CCMG funds. Now there's only going to be 1 call a year. And the next call is going to be, we believe, September, October of this year. We already have a project for several mill and fill projects. So, talking to Aaron, we would apply for that one in the October, and then looking at doing this one in July of next year for what they're going to call the fiscal year 2027 project. So we will apply in July, and the construction July of 2026, and construction in 2027. But yes, we're proposing to do 3rd Street and 2nd Street and Main Street from 3rd to 8th, I believe. And we're wanting to do new sidewalks, new curbing, mill and fill, and bring them all up to ADA standards and make them a heck of a lot nicer. So I have to do this with a need survey. We're unfortunately going to need a construction and floodway permit, and we go over the small structure on 3rd Street. Hopefully it's just going to be a letter, nothing too involved. And we just need to do some utility coordination in case there's any utilities that we encounter we think are gonna be in the way. And then, but for the most part, it'll just be pretty simple.
Mhm.
But we'd like to do the survey in June while we're doing the survey for the safety improvement project. And so that way we can save a couple $1,000s in mobilization and demobilization, so.
On this is from a personal standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Living on Second Street, we just redid our sidewalks just over a year ago, and the neighbors did as well. Will new sidewalks be torn out, or do you just build up to those?
We're gonna build up to those big
Okay.
sidewalks, yes. Yes, we do not want to
Yeah.
disturb those pretty construction that was done, yes.
And they agreed that we could pay half of this year and then the other half
Out of
next
what
year.
fund? Which one?
Which one did we discuss? Did you write it down?
So half an hour, basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
MVH construction, wasn't it?
Any questions?
Mhm.
I will make a motion to move forward with the CCMG 2026-1 contract approval.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
If I can bring it back on. Six.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give that to me, sir.
Yep.
I'm now going to close the regular meeting and open up the public hearing for the Town of Roanoke Water and Wastewater System Development Fees. This ordinance, if adopted, would amend Section 52.04C2 of Chapter 52, Water, and add a new Section 53.23 to Chapter 53, Sewers of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Roanoke, Indiana, each amendment to provide for a system development fee applicable to all new users of the town's water and sewer systems. So, are there any questions or concerns from the public?
What's the amount?
So the ordinance is, there's a copy when you came
Did you
in.
get a copy?
I didn't get it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Apologies.
It's a schedule. It lists the different types of meter sizes for wastewater and water, and each amount is on there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can make you a copy.
Here's one. You wanna? Thanks, Grant.
And this is for new homes and
Yeah, this
businesses,
is
not
for new
existing.
homes. Thank you.
Does this cover like new businesses? Like there's talk of a car wash coming in?
Yes. Any new homes or new businesses?
Got it.
Any other questions? All right, excuse me. All right, I am going to close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting. We all received the application for the special event, the Vintage and Handmade Market. Everything looked good. Did anybody, I mean, Caleb's not here, but if we have any questions, Brian can text him. Did anyone have any questions about the application?
Some would be pretty straightforward, what they've always done before.
So I will make a motion to approve the application for the Vintage and Handmade Market on June 14th of 2025.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? citizens' comments. Anyone have any questions? Anything to bring up?
Just any general questions?
Yes.
With all of this new purchasing, the wastewater, my business is having to prepare for upcoming cost increases. Just the general cost of living increase that is going to be concurrent with all the tariffs taking place. And I'm not trying to get down that road. It's a fact of life that the costs are going to increase, especially the longer through the year we go. Two things. One, the equipment that we're purchasing, is that US-based equipment? And if not, does the tariff have to be factored into that? If it's, hey, we're bringing this equipment in from Canada or something. And then two would be, are we able to, I'm just worried if we push a project down the road a year, that could potentially be a 7% increase.
Or worse, I just had a conversation with the other engineer this afternoon who reminded me that 3 years ago, cost of construction went up about 30%.
Yeah.
And so in the next 2 to 5 years, there's no guarantee that's not gonna happen again. We're gonna go up another 20 or 30%.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
And I don't have other than here, I'll give you more money out of my pocket to try and do it this year. I don't have an answer for that, but
I wish I did, but I don't.
it's just something to kind of keep on the minds is all, I guess that's all I'm trying to do. And then the other thing, of course, being, is the equipment coming from the US or is it coming from outside the US? Would be something I wouldn't mind knowing, just because obviously if it's Chinese, it's going to get pricey.
Right. I don't know.
And they're just in the design phase now, so there hadn't been any equipment.
Well, I thought they were talking about the particular wastewater processing plant that they were looking at purchasing, or is that?
So
Style,
it's a
but not
particular
specific.
process, but there's different types of equipment for that process.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Police department?
So if nobody knows, it's grass cutting season. So to let the council know, I've been watching we've been getting phone calls and stuff, that with the weather last week, the weather this weekend, and the weather today, I'm starting to list that by Wednesday, end of the day on Wednesday, if lawns haven't been mowed, I'm trying to give people enough chance to get things mowed before I start sending letters out. But in the business Wednesday, if the lawns that I've seen don't get mowed, I'll send letters out to get them mowed. And so people understand that's 8 inches. The step town ordinance reads 8 inches. And I don't count dandelions as the 8 inches because they pop up overnight even in my yard. There's booklets out here on front. Those were done free of charge for us. They were the advertising booklets like we received last year. I gave some to the council. The little frisbees, those came from the drug money. And we got 250 of those to give out during the fall festival and things like that. The trick is get them all folded up, put in a little package. The other thing I gave to the council is I'm requesting to upgrade our service guns. I've talked to Sarah about this, where the money would come from. I went ahead and got 3 bids out there, the suppliers that we've used before, and to try to mitigate stuff. I just took the lowest bid on everything. Keesler's is who we've dealt with before in the past on other things. Our body armor that we bought through Keesler's. They have everything in stock, or they have the pistols in stock. Columbia City, the guy up there actually beat everybody else's distributor's cost, and he can get those to us in a short time. I'm asking if we could purchase those.
I make a motion that
I'm
we,
okay with that.
yeah, I make a motion that we purchase the new service gun.
at the cost of $1,520.03 before trading.
Before traded.
And that's for the guns and sights.
That's everything.
All right, I'll second.
I'll make the motion then to purchase that, or did you make the motion?
I made the motion.
I'll second that, the motion then.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Does the council have anything for us?
Alright. Superintendent of Operations.
First thing you guys got is the water tower maintenance agreement. Didn't know if you wanted to have some discussions on that. Thoughts, concerns, and that fun jazz.
I like the first 3 years pricing.
Yes.
The pricing's not great, but we also have the thing of when we're talking about things going up in cost. If you don't do something now, if we wait, I mean, how much is it gonna go up?
You can chime in too. You pay the bills.
I think when Aaron and I talked, we had, what, to year 4, maybe 5 covered?
And that was without putting any more money into the reserve.
So that would be my concern, is after year 5, we don't have the funds to pay for it. Then what?
But on the other side of that, what did you say we were looking at if we had to paint and did not have an agreement?
Probably 300,000 at least.
With this 10-year contract, it's a $300,000 contract too. 368 or so. Yeah, now.
Yeah,
10 years.
but not up front.
So it's either come up with 300,000 up front or paid over time.
Now, I will say I did have an inspection a couple of weeks ago. They didn't bring anything up about having one. So
Can it be pushed off for a year?
So where would the funding even potentially come from in year 5, that type of thing?
You tell me.
We all know it's gonna be tough to go to the
Yeah.
residents and ask for more tax dollars for a
yep.
maintenance.
And rates haven't been increased on the water side since 2014.
So that's, I mean, I brought it to you guys so you can make the decision. There's still, I still have to get inspected every other year and probably have auditing and things to take care of, but
Can any of the tap increases or anything help cover some of that? or-
Certainly could, but you just don't know what those are gonna be.
Well, yeah.
Well, not-
how many?
Not maybe the tapping because they're not very high, but these new development fees, if you were to pass that tonight, then that definitely could help towards that. Would they quote it again in a year, or is this, they quote and then you?
oh, I'm sure he'd quote it again in a year. And we can revisit it again.
We're okay for, to wait a year?
It's not going anywhere.
You said the inspection's every other year,
Yeah.
so we're
Did
actually
it
good
this
for 2
year,
years.
yeah, looking for 2.
But also. it could
Well,
go up.
I've got to do one this year. He went off the inspection from last year.
Okay.
What are your thoughts, Aaron?
It's catch-22. I mean, like I said, I think we can handle the regular maintenance of it. It's just if it comes to that point where it needs painted. And I think if it comes to that point, and you go look at somebody for a maintenance contract again, you're not gonna have the year 1 through 4 where it's cheap. You're gonna start off with a higher payment.
When is he expecting a decision? Like, could we could
I
I
think-
possibly get together with Sarah and the 3 of us get together and try to figure out
I think
where
I
we
can
can get future money from?
kick it down the road for a few more months, I think.
Aaron and I did that exact thing. We went through how much money is being put aside each month and what the balances are, and it got us to year 5.
Because I think to put more in the reserve, and that's gonna take more out of the operating,
But we would have to put more in the reserve if we were to do a contract.
which hurts for other things. So like during my inspection, Peerless's last testing of the wells, they're saying, well, 5 needs replaced, which is 30 or 40,000. Well, I didn't expect that to get replaced by the time they come back to inspect again.
And when will they be coming back?
To inspect again, 3 years.
So that is the maintenance, this maintenance plan includes that, though
No, that's
it does
different.
not, that's
Yeah.
different.
I'm just saying that money we use to do those sort of things would get chipped away at to put more in the reserve to pay for this.
Personally, I think we have a lot of moving parts with water and sewer right now that I don't think it's a bad idea to hold off for a couple of months and see where everything comes together. Because we have a lot of unknowns right now.
We do.
I agree.
So just table it?
Yes, we're gonna table it.
Update on the project up there. Next week, they're scheduled to come in and do the retaining wall. Looks like they did the stop lines today. So hopefully by the end of the week, it looks like it's supposed to be dry. We can have it all done, and taken care of. I think that's all I have. Unless you guys have questions about something.
Will they come back and reseed or anything if need be, or how's that all take place?
I'm going to ask them. See what they say. If not, we've got some bags where I can throw some seed.
Councilwoman Carrie Atkinson.
Okay, just a couple of announcements from the library. Number one, the website has been upgraded. It's much cleaner right now. There is one small issue that Celia is working on, but it's an internal thing, and she got some help last night from someone else. So I think you'll find that if you go in and use it, there's tabs in the front. It's just much cleaner than it was before. Gets you more directly to what you might be looking for. And then the other thing is that the library has purchased new computers, and they will be, they're not installed yet, but we'll be beginning the process of installing the brand new computers. They're, if you've been to the library and you're used to seeing what's on the table, they are a little bit smaller than this. So right now they're working on some security measures to keep them from walking away. So that's it.
Thanks. Councilwoman Ryan Humphries.
I just have one thing kind of for the residents, and not to be political about this, but I don't know how many of you saw the passage of SB1 in the State House. It's basically reducing our property taxes, which sounds fantastic. The bad thing is a lot of those property taxes come to the towns. That's how we fund a lot of our projects. And the state legislators' response to what are we supposed to do for money is, hey, you guys can create local income taxes. Feel free to do that. So it's making the state representatives look great, making us look like bad guys. We're already asking for more money for our wastewater treatment projects. And now we have to think about things like that. I'm not saying we're going to do that, but I just want to point out that not everything that sounds great is all great. And I don't know where that's going to go. And that's pretty much all I have right now.
Vice President Nick here.
I have nothing at this point, thank you.
My first thing is, if we need to vote, if we're going to move forward with the ordinance that was presented during the public hearing. I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to pass ordinance 2025-03, which is the ordinance amending the water and sewer code to include these development fees.
One second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, next is the approval of payment for the wastewater project number 1, the main pump station. Is that what this is?
No. We have a recommendation of payment to API Construction.
For 100,
Yes.
183,
198,
158.
All right, so
I just need a motion to approve that so that you guys can sign that second.
In the amount of the 158.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the approval of payment for the wastewater project number 1, the main pump station for $158,353.12.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That's all I have. Clerk treasurer Sarah Mountain.
The only thing I had on there was the sewer ban extension. I guess I'm not sure. It's up to you if you want to go ahead and at least approve an extension. The other option is to hold off till whenever we meet the next couple of weeks and do it then. What we're not sure right now is whether we're just extending it or whether we're increasing it. If we increase it past 7 million, what happens? You have to do a whole new ban. So there's a whole new process to that. And so I would have to get with Baker Tilly and Iceland to find out. You have to advertise and do a new ordinance and all that. So, yeah, I was gonna have you just extend it tonight and then we got the bid and so.
Sorry.
It's not your fault. It's all your fault. So I'm not sure how you guys wanna handle that.
Any
I just want to
I-
go away. I
Yeah,
don't know if we have a
thank
choice
you.
but to extend it at this point.
Yeah, I think we should go ahead and go ahead and start the extension. And then if
And then if we
we need,
have to increase it past the 7 million and have to do a new ordinance,
Right.
then when we meet again in 2 weeks, you guys could
yeah,
approve that?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay, I just need a
Yes.
motion.
I'll make that motion to extend that ban.
I'll second.
all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay.
Yeah. I'm with you. I wanted to go away.
That's all you got?
Mhm, that's it.
Thank you, sorry. Any old business? Presentation of bills and utility adjustments. I'll make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you.